Good morning and welcome to Cheche, the show where opinion counts, live on Citizen TV. My name is Udwa Kamimo. Wherever you turn these days, the news has to do with corruption, whether it's politicians in court, allegations flying round about who did what, or even plots to oust key officials. Corruption is in the air. Its tentacles reached into Parliament, the National Assembly specifically, resulting in the election of Rarieda MP Nicholas Gumbo to the chairmanship of the Public Accounts Committee. Mr. Gumbo is today's guest. Also with us, opinionated panelists in the name and shape of David Makali and Mutegi Njao. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning,
Mr. Gumbo, what's in your intro as the new chairman of PAC? You've held this position for about 2 months now.
Yeah, and thank you, Udwak. Thank you, David. Thank you, Mutegi, for inviting me to Cheche. Of course, you know, the Public Accounts Committee, the intro is always full because we look at appropriations of the National Assembly, and this is quite a large budget. And now, of course, you know, the accounting system has changed, where before we're mainly concerned with, if you like, we are more like pathologists. Now we deal more with current issues in the sense that the Auditor General is supposed to submit his reports by 31st of the succeeding financial year, and we are really supposed to be seized of those within 90 days. So it's a full plate. It's quite a lot that we're doing.
Okay. But we mustn't forget that the reason why you became the new chair of PAC had to do with corruption allegations. And I believe you said something about ensuring that Parliament and PAC would be cleaner than Caesar's wife.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, that's the aspiration, really, not just mine, but Parliament as an institution. And I think it is really the obligation of all of us in government to make sure that because we are in the service of the people of Kenya, and the scorecard that matters is what the people of Kenya think about us. So we went through that transition. Don't forget that the PSC is the Premier Oversight Committee of Parliament, and therefore Kenyans look to it to be able to deliver on that mandate. So insofar as that is concerned, yes, we are. But I want to correct something. You know, the impression that was created, I think about 5 members left PSC, and this is a committee of 27, so 22 are still there. And I can tell you, from what I have seen with the interactions that we have had, we've had quite a very intensive interactions to get going. And these are a lot of them are very, very solid professionals who mean well in their work, who mean well for our country, and I have only absolute faith in the ability to be able to move the mandate of the committee forward.
But Parliament itself, not even the committee, Parliament, this is worst Parliament, I think, when it comes to corruption.
That's perception, Mategi.
No, not perception. Look, in this newspaper,
it's the worst perception.
It's the worst. Look at today's, when they are grading Monica Juma.
Yes.
Monica Juma wrote a letter to Parliament to say these members of Parliament are coming to my office asking ridiculous favors. Maintain this one here, promote this one transfer. And she says those are abuse of office. And the members of Parliament making it had to go through a letter. And now she's being grilled because of that. You know, instead of thanking her, say, you stopped.
You know, Mutegi, the thing is that you have to understand what the role of a member of Parliament is. Our role, as per the Constitution, has to do with legislation, providing oversight, and then representing people. That is really, that aspect of representation is not definite. Today, even as I sit here, people come to you with all manner of issues. As a representative of the people, I can tell you, we are basically on duty 24 hours. People come to you with all manner of problems. You have to understand that our welfare systems are such that there's a lot of inadequacies out there. And the person that people see, even as we sit today, by the way, you go, most people still don't even understand the roles of the county governments, everything more or less has to be stopped at the door of the member of parliament. I go home, there's no water, people come asking for water. That ought to be the function of the county government. The hospitals have no medicine. That ought to be functions of county government.
But diluting the issue, hang on, we're diluting the issue. The point really, isn't it, that even if a request was made to an MP to look after a constituent's interests, why abuse office in doing so?
I don't think...
The legislator should know and should be able to say, you know, what you're asking for is beyond the realms of my mandate.
What is...
And that's why she had to write a letter.
Where is the specific aspect of abuse? What I heard that say, I think I've heard what you were saying, for example, is that some members of parliament are going to her and saying that I want this officer transferred. Why are they doing that? They're doing that because we have had cases, for example, in my constituency, where you have a district officer who is perpetually drunk, who is messing around with people's families. The other day, I got a case of a rogue administration policeman who was invading people's houses, interfering with people's... So what are we supposed to do? Are you supposed, as a representative of the people, you are told that this fellow is molesting women whose husbands are working in town, this fellow is molesting schoolgirls. Are you supposed to keep quiet as a representative of the people? You are supposed to go there and tell them that the conduct... In fact, I myself have had an opportunity to even call the sub-county commissioner and say this fellow should not just be transferred, but he should be removed from service, because it is a concern to the people. Remember, Mutegi, what I said. The aspect of representation, it is, you cannot define it. It is indefinite. People come to you with all sorts of, and these are real issues. So what are you supposed, if somebody comes to you and says, this particular administration policeman has impregnated schoolgirls, what are you supposed to, just to keep quiet? You're supposed to do something about it.
Are you saying that
you report to the police?
Yeah. Are you saying Dr. Juma was so unreasonable that those kind of requests should...
I have not personally gone to Dr. Juma.
For her to write a letter,
No, please.
Yeah.
I have personally not gone to Dr. Juma, and I'm not speaking on behalf of the MPs who have gone to Dr. Juma. What I'm trying to tell you is to give you the broad environment within which members of parliament work. And these are real issues. You cannot wish them away. So I am speaking as somebody who has from time to time to confront similar issues. And I know sometimes you may be forced in the process of undertaking your representation duties to do things that for someone who probably is not seized of the matter may not see the reasonableness of the same. This is what I'm saying.
Yeah. David?
Well, first of all, I sympathize with the position that Honorable Gumbo there is espousing, and I think it's legit that a member of parliament can complain to an authority that is responsible for a particular officer if there is misconduct or non-performance. The question, though, is whether when that officer does not act, members of parliament or the parliament as an institution then takes sanctions against that person, which could lead in either seeking her removal or his removal from office, which raises the issue of accountability of parliament itself and exceeding its mandate. And that's, I think, where now Monica Juma comes and says, look, we are being put under pressure. Yes. They are requesting things we cannot perform. Yeah. So what should we do? Should we be punished when we don't perform?
For example, I'm just giving you an example. I myself had an occasion to ask for an officer to be removed. What is it that she cannot perform? And really, where is this fear of this public responsibility? These are public officials under her. Somebody has gone to her and said, this officer is not doing what they're supposed to do. Is she not supposed to be receiving those complaints?
Mr. Gumbo, you know that that's not the process. Yes. I mean, even her as a principal secretary cannot possibly take action because that is a public service commission responsibility. So maybe she's just telling you, well, I've received and I've passed that information to the relevant mechanisms.
Put it in a circular.
And please don't punish me for inaction.
Anyway, I don't speak for those members of parliament.
Monica Juma was writing to the speaker and the clerk to say members of parliament should be restrained from going to office.
That has to be
making those demands.
That has to be
which are unreasonable.
The speaker and the clerk and the MPs.
Yeah.
Yes.
The broader context of this is corruption, and the initial question had to do with, and you said perception, and the perception is that you are sitting in the most corrupt parliament, National Assembly actually, that we've ever had, and so you are supposed to be leading the charge against corruption. In responding to that, I'm not sure that our viewers would have any confidence in your ability to fight corruption in the very institution that should be oversighting the organizations or bodies that we have created to
What has
them.
corruption got to do with Monica Juma's letter? Honestly, I don't understand. He asked me that Monica Juma complained.
I'll give an example.
That is not a corruption issue. Where is corruption in that one? I mean,
What do you see as corruption?
But how
No, hang on. Let's just define that for Kenyans. What do you see as corruption, and what will you be fighting against?
corruption, in my view, is misuse of public resources. Where is the misuse of public resources in that?
Abuse of office?
Abuse of office. The word used there is abuse of office.
If
she considered those requests, she would have abused the office. That's what she said.
I don't agree. I have told you the intricacies of representation are such that sometimes you have to do those things. What has she abused? Monica Juma is the boss of those people. Somebody has got... do you expect now the member of parliament to go complaining to the clerks? He cannot. She is sitting in a public office. How much can she... What is she... Then she should say, this I will do, this you go to my assistant.
Yes.
Where is corruption in that? You know, let us not just try to bring issues that are not related.
I think let's color it a little,
yes.
Mheshimiwa.
Yeah.
Agreed. Your side and your position is under pressure to
yes.
deliver demands from
yes.
people, individual, communal, and so forth. On the other side, and that might lead you to exact that pressure
yes.
on other officers who may not necessarily be responsible for taking action. And two, some people, in your position, for example, members of parliament,
yeah.
may want certain preferred people working in certain areas, so they may come with their own preferences. Okay? That is a likelihood that I don't like this DO, or maybe he's working not in my interests, and I need to preserve my constituency and my seat, so have him removed from here. Monica Juma declines because she hasn't got evidence of it. I think this is the context in which
like I said, I have not gone to Monica Juma, and I don't speak for the members of
and
the
she's not here. That was an example.
I just gave an example.
Yeah.
David.
Now, before we get out of parliament to fighting outside, yes. I mean, the whole perception issue, although you say, you disagree that it's the most corrupt, and that is a matter of perception.
Yes.
But how do we hold parliament accountable in the first instance? How is parliament accountable for its actions? For example, when there were allegations of corruption within the PAC that led to Ababu Namwamba's team being dissolved or reorganized, the public wasn't satisfied at the action taken. In fact, it was like soft peddling on those people and the corruption allegations.
Well, the sovereignty, and this is provided for in the Constitution. The sovereignty is with the people of Kenya. Parliament is answerable to the people of Kenya, and that includes you and all the other people
yes.
of Kenya.
Yeah.
So that is where the first point of accountability.
Yeah.
And the people of Kenya have.
And the problem
right.
is this,
yes.
Larry, not Larry, but Gumbo. The people of Kenya are unable to hold this parliament to account.
How are they unable
with
to
regard to corruption? Because, corruption allegations are flying around. You handle it within the standing orders to the dissatisfaction of the public, and they can do nothing about it. Because if I tell you, there are people who still believe there was corruption that occurred in that committee. Those claims about Mutairingo, who calling who and who, they have not been acquitted in the public domain. But what do we do?
You see, number one, of course, I wasn't sitting in that committee at that time. So I lead a committee which was just reconstituted hardly 2 months ago. To the best of my mind, no allegation has come up against that committee. And honestly, you can't expect me to speak for a committee where I didn't sit.
But do you
There's a broader
the public?
question. Yes, there was a broader question about how the public seeks accountability from its representatives, given that those representatives are supposed to exercise sovereignty on their own behalf.
I had said woodwork. You see, one thing that we have to distinguish, even as we go into this debate, I think it's also not right to engage in what looks like mob lynching, where everybody looks like they're not doing their work. When I started, I just told you, the committee that I found, only about 5 members were discharged from that committee. And within the 22 that remained, I have seen very solid and well-meaning professionals. Would it be fair for me to come here and start to say that all of them were bad when I know for sure that most of them were not as bad?
That's not the question you were asked.
Yeah.
The initial question had to do with how do you satisfy the Kenyan public that their representatives are acting in their own best interest, particularly when you have such serious allegations against them?
Well, you see, I have been in that committee for 2 months. We have our mandate. We are discharging it.
But now, not speaking as the chairman of that committee, let's broaden that to you as a member of Parliament.
Yes.
Things are happening in that house that are very, outrageous in my view. The public would like to, we're still stuck with those corruption allegations. You are not there, but they happened, and you're aware. And the other things happen even outside that committee. There could be other committees which are also engaged in certain things. How can the public hold this parliament accountable? Because the internal rules are soft on each other. Members are soft on each other there. They get away with anything.
No. I think, we even have the recall clause, Mutegi. If the public feels that the MPs are not doing their work, we are within the recall period. Honestly, I have not seen anybody in Kenya. No one has stopped anybody in Kenya from instituting a recall of a member of parliament. Really. So when you say that the public are not happy, they have options and they are not exercising that, how can you blame it on MPs? I have not seen that. But what I'm trying to say, and again I said I'm not speaking for the whole of parliament. I can only speak for the committee that I've led for the last 2 months. It is not correct to say a lot of those members of parliament. The thing about what we do is that people tend to focus on the little that go wrong, but people don't see the good. I'll give you an example. For example, when we're doing the Public Audit Act and the Public Procurement, that's a Disposal Act, how many Kenyans know, for example, that we sat in parliament up to 2 a.m. trying to make that law comply with the Constitution? And this has not happened once. This has happened several times. But we are in a situation where 1 or 2 people do wrong things, and it tends to look like, oh, the whole of parliament is bad, and let us lynch them. This is really where we go wrong, because we are representative. And don't forget, sometimes when you make parliament look bad, it's not parliament that you're making looking bad. These are people who are elected by the people of Kenya. Then the question is, every 5 years we go to elections. If we keep on, it looks like, in your view, which I don't agree with, every 5 years we only elect people who are looking so bad, then there's...
How do you explain the people we are described as rogue parliament?
By who?
It's all over in the newspapers. Rogue parliament.
By you in the media.
The day you are passing this bill of procurement, you slash money from the Senate. You see, if you're talking about the media, then I could also go to the media. The media does not. Media reports what people say.
Tell us. That I was saying. You are talking about the media.
Tell us also. We are not above reproach.
Recently, our leading media house rated members of parliament, and I can tell you, in the this perception, according to that media house, came from the people. More than 50% in fact, an overwhelming over 60% of members of parliament were rated as 60% and above by their own constituents. So then, when does the media vilify parliament, and when does the media give parliament approval ratings? You see, so
but we must also give room to the fact that the general public, and this is not demeaning, but they're never particular on some of the things which need watch. Things will happen in the house, but how many people actually get to know what happens out there? Many people who vote for these members of parliament are not informed enough, or do not make judgment based on that analysis. That must be
I'm
accepted.
not aware civic education ought to be part of our functions, but then somebody has to do it so that people.
So that omission could explain.
That omission, people, then someone has to.
Sorry, hang on. You're not mandated to provide civic education, but you are mandated to provide public engagement.
Yes, which we do.
Right.
Yes,
Okay, so in terms of, you talk about some of these crucial bills that you're passing, and which don't necessarily attract public engagement. What's the problem there?
No. What I'm saying, I didn't say they didn't attract public engagement.
Right,
Please don't misquote me.
Okay.
I said no one took cognizance of the fact that members of parliament set up to 2 a.m. to push these bills through. public engagement. All bills now cannot be processed without inviting public participation. It's something that even now, if you look at yesterday's newspapers, the companies bill, the insolvency bill, we are inviting public participation. It's a requirement of the Constitution, and we can't sidestep it.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we go back to the broader question then about how you lead the charge against corruption within Parliament, because remember there's a problem of perception. We have had your colleagues here talking about rent seeking. We have had members of committees here who have been accused of producing shoddy reports because they've been compromised. How do you address that given your new responsibility?
First of all, I want to disabuse some notion here that it is the sole responsibility of Parliament to fight corruption. That is not true. Corruption...
Within Parliament?
No. Corruption will be fought and won through the collective determination of all Kenyans, not just Parliament. And I'll give you an example. In Kenya today, over 80% of Kenyans are subscribed to the Christian faith. They go to churches every Sunday. Some of the people involved in mega corruptions, they go to churches every day. Even within churches, can we say there is no problem of corruption? So really, to try to narrow, because I said we will confront Parliament through lawmaking, through policies, and through ensuring that the necessary institutional reforms are undertaken, which I think there may be lapses, but we have tried. Look at where we stand, for example, now. We have the Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Act, which was passed by Parliament, which I think, if you ask me, even you look at the action of the President, there were sufficient provisions in that act to allow the President to do something better than what he did, because that act provides for example, when a public officer is charged over corruption issues, they are supposed to be suspended, not step aside, because step aside does not appear in any law in Kenya. Be suspended until their case is concluded. So we have the Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Act, which has been done by Parliament. We have the Leadership and Integrity. Of course, I'm aware that both at Cabinet and even within Parliament, it was watered down. The initial intention of Chapter 6 was not achieved. We have the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. All these are laws which have been provided. And remember, Woodwork, sometimes, by the way, the more laws you have in a society, it may not be a manifestation that you're pursuing good governance. In fact, to the contrary, it may be a manifestation of perversity of nobility. Some of you may have read, I didn't read history much, but as a young man I read about the Songhai Empire and the silent trade. Those people were able to conduct themselves without any law. Because why? They were noble people. So at the end of the day, we will confront corruption, not by the number of laws that we stack in our shelves, but how we go about our value systems as a nation and how we approach the issues that confront us.
Okay, so let's unpack that after the break. This is Cheche. We're live on Citizen TV and we're discussing corruption with the National Assembly's Public Accounts Committee Chairman, Nicholas Gumbo. If you've got any thoughts, questions, opinions that you want to share with us, do go ahead and SMS us on 22422, or you can tweet us using the hashtag Cheche.